Good afternoon and welcome to our Netwrix Auditor Product Overview webinar. Just a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes to allow the final participants to enter the call and we'll get started. Welcome everybody. We'll kick off. I have a full house. Let's start by the objectives of today and timing. In terms of timing, we should be finished within the next hour, that's for sure. And the objective of today is basically to provide you all with a comprehensive overview of our solution. So you can determine if you want to go forward with testing, evaluation, or starting a project with a Netwrix Auditor. My name is Richard Notabos. I'm the country manager for the Benelux and the Nordics, and I've been with Netwrix for almost 4 years. I'll provide a brief overview of what we do and who we are. And after that, Kenneth, our system engineer, will provide a product demonstration. Everybody is on mute, but in the panel screen for the GoToMeeting session, there is a question section. So please put any questions you have during my presentation and during the demonstration. Put any question you have in that area, and we'll pick up in the Q&A session any questions that you might have. Okay. We were founded over 12 years ago and by now have over 10,000 customers. Yesterday saw the press release of Q3 and we added over 400 customers per quarter. So growing rapidly. Customers are divided over more than 100 countries worldwide. So we're truly operating globally with offices throughout the world. We also have many different customers, basically in every vertical that you can think of and any size. You have customers because visibility in the IT infrastructure is really, really important in order to be able to protect your data, but also to ease any troubleshooting when things go wrong. Our smallest customers are about 25, and through our managed service providers, MSPs, we have even lots of customers that are smaller than 25, but direct as a customer buying their own Netwrix installation. But 25 is the smallest I know, and we have also customers with many hundreds of thousands of licenses. The Netwrix, we are a single solution vendor, so we only make one solution, and that's the Netwrix Auditor. And what started out as a system to keep track of all the infrastructure configuration changes, it has evolved and grown to a very complete and really easy to use visibility platform to protect your data. And that's really important because collecting logs and getting information out of your infrastructure is not really the problem today. The challenge today is how are you going to get a maximum value out of all this data so you can do more things in less time and close off security holes and blind spots. And this is basically what I mean. This is a report from earlier this year, and it makes it really clear that the average detection of data breaches is still almost 200 days. Okay, so this gap in about 1 or 2 years ago, it was like 220 days. The average time is still almost 200 days, which is an enormous time between a data breach and the detection, and then of course the containment. This costs a lot of money. So if you can reduce the time to detect potential data breaches, and if you can reduce the time to solve those issues, organizations can save a lot of money. And of course, in terms of compliance, you need this visibility as well. The Netwrix Auditor is what we call a unified platform. And when we say unified, it means that all the data that we collect from all these different systems all resides in a single database. And that's really important, because if you're looking for any information, or if you need to run reports, or you need to analyze any data, it all comes from a single database, which means you get the full overview. And when we say systems we support natively, we mean that for those systems, we have a great depth of information, a lot of details. And this slide just shows you some of the examples in the type of information we have available on those different systems. Okay, when you run a Netwrix Auditor platform, basically you can pick and choose the modules that you need to best support your business needs and IT needs, and use those licenses, and grow and add more licenses as your needs or regulations evolve towards the future. Okay. Then infrastructure systems that we don't support natively, we import the information through our integrated API. Okay, so we can use this API also to integrate with other platforms for the export of data. Think of ServiceNow platforms, Splunk, ArcSight, and other SIEM solutions, as well as governance, risk, and compliance solutions. Okay, so to illustrate what type of systems you can integrate, well, Amazon Web Services information, Linux and Unix systems, Radius servers, but we can also import CSV files. So many applications provide logs from CSV files, and exports to systems like, as I mentioned, ServiceNow, McAfee, IBM, Logarithm, Splunk, etc. What we do is we monitor the downloads of those add-ons that you find for free on our add-on store on the Netwrix website. And when there's a lot of interest for some specific module to integrate, we will investigate to build a specific module to really get more depth and information into the Netwrix Auditor. And having that level of information is important, because you will be asked to answer questions about your infrastructure, about what's happening, about compliance and security policies, who is behaving strangely, where does your data reside, is there any privacy sensitive data on our public folders, those type of questions you will need to be able to answer. And the Netwrix Auditor is helping you to answer those questions and to collect that information and to be able to report on these things. So recently I had a hospital come to me, and I had an issue that a file share with medical scans was public in their network. And they found out by accident, because somebody was looking for a certain file with wildcard, and information came back from a share that the person who was from IT shouldn't have access to start with. And he's like, oh, this is strange. Why do I see files on this share? And they found out the share was put to public. So the whole hospital had access to very sensitive privacy related information, because they didn't have tooling and the logs were already overwritten, they couldn't respond to any questions that were asked by the hospital board. How long was the share public? Who put the share to public? Who accessed what files in the time that the share was public? Nothing they were able to answer. So this is clearly the need for tooling. And even though you use Office 365, be aware, Office 365, Azure AD, it holds 3 months to 1 month of logs. So whatever happened before that time, if you're not having the tooling to collect those logs, even from the cloud, you're missing valuable information in terms of knowing what's going on with your infrastructure. Then the final slide before we move over to the actual demo from Kenneth is I want to briefly explain you conceptually how the system is working. On the left-hand side, you have the audit assurance, where we collect the data from the different systems, and we do that without using any intrusive drivers or agents on the target systems. So as a base, we use the event logs, and then we complement that information with snapshot, system queries, LDAP queries, etc., to make sure that the information is complete. And for every change, you have the value before, the value after, who did it, when did it, on what systems did it happen. So we have the audit assurance side, and then on below you have the audit archive, and this is our storage system, which is in 2 steps. So we have an integrated long-term storage system, which is highly efficient, and we have a SQL database, which is where all the data is collected. On the right-hand side, you have the audit intelligence. This is where the information really, shines by the value we can take out of it. And this is where Kenneth will go into more details and explain, what is a monitoring plan? How can you look for information? How are you going to find out who has access to what files through, alerting, interactive search, reports, etc. Remember, when you have any questions, put them in the question section on the screen. Haven't seen any questions yet, but I'm sure they will come up during the demo that Kenneth will provide right now. Kenneth, over to you.
Thank you, Richard. So then just let me switch from your presentation to the demo environment. Then so here you go, guys. This is the interface for our Netwrix Auditor 9.7, as Richard has just been talking about, the unified visibility platform looking into all the activities users are basically generating in your environment. We support, as Richard said, a lot of different systems that we can collect information from, anything from activities to configurational details, stuff like that. We put all that in this database. The system will, and this is very important for you guys who used to sit with PowerShell scripting and try to pull things out of Windows, as we will keep all these informations for a number of years. The default in the system are actually 10 years. It's something you can choose to configure. Your customers, whoever sits with this, can choose to configure for like 1 or 2 or 3 or even 20 years if that's what you like to do. It's always going to be collected, it's always going to be reported on the database, and we then stored in this long-term archive storage that we have. So based on that, we will use this interface, and one of the things we can provide very fast is insights into how is systems from a security perspective, risk assessment perspective, actually built. Are there things that an IT admin or a CISO or anyone who sits with responsibility for specific systems need to look into? This report tells us something about Active Directory, about group structures, and then about the access to data in the environment. All our reports come with the possibility to, you can run them when you need them, and you can even subscribe. Subscriptions means that we will automatically create and send the reports to the people who needs those informations. So it can, from a productive perspective in an IT team, means that you can be more productive. But when you don't have to provide these details for those people who need the details manually. We automate the entire process for you, make it easier basically to do your day-to-day job. But looking at some of these informations we have in here, like the first one is, that's very often what I see with customers where they say, well, that cannot be right. And yes, that is right. This is simply just pulled out of Active Directory. And we do have them. We all have them. There will be like service accounts, meeting rooms accounts, all these different accounts we use for specific purposes. Normally comes with password and response. I know some of you are working on systems where you change the passwords anyway, but this is the facts coming out of Active Directory. So customers would normally very fast look at this. Basically, what I do is I double click on it, and it will bring up a list of what accounts actually do have password never expires. And yes, I do have service account. You can see them down here. Go on here as well, but I also have a few users in here, and then I can start as a CISO or the administrator of the Active Directory to determine whether or not this is right or wrong. We could even, if somebody sets password never expires on a account at some point, we could alert on that. But I'll get back to alerting functions later on. This is just one of the reports we will get out. I want to point on one thing as well. One of the things that Richard was mentioning is this applying a permission to a folder, making it accessible to everyone, basically. So the everyone permission, make that suddenly everything is publicly available to everyone on the network. We can provide you with very fast details about what type of what folders basically in your environment do have the permissions everyone set as access permissions. So you get a list. Well, pretty OP. It could be okay on a public folder, basically data, whatever is your choice. This all is what you do with your own system. We provide you with the insights into what have been done and what is being doing in the system. Here you could see that it's acceptable on a public share that we have everyone applied as a permission, but might not on the PPO budgets folder. So somebody's been in the system and applied this everyone access. We will, though, when we go into the details later on, we will detect every subfolder, any files that sits behind that inherits those changes. We will collect those details as well, so you get a very granular information about where have those changes been made. You make them and all these things. We will get back to that later on. So that's just very fast with the Netwrix Auditor access into, are there actually things in my environment I need to look at immediately. The only thing it requires is having the system running overnight, basically, to get these details. So coming back again to the reports, we do have different on the front reports. I'm going to come back to some of those later on. Rather go into our very comprehensive set of built-in reports. That's one of the things that, you know, Richard was mentioning this about collecting information. It's fairly easy. It's PowerShell scripting, copying information, stuff like that. All can do that. The issue is how to work with these data, because it can easily be millions of lines of information. So what Netwrix Auditor does is that we're going to collect the same details. Basically, we're going to collect all the security events as well. But we're going to, first of all, clear out all the noise. Everything that has nothing to do with activities created by users or computers, we're going to clear them out. And then we're going to look at all these events and say which of these events are a specific series that is specific activities. So like if you copy a file in a Windows environment, that's nowhere Windows detects this as being a copied file. We will detect that because we can see the string of events that is specifically for a copy event, basically. So you get those things instead. So as I said, we will strip out all the noise, make the access to the information highly accessible and easy to work with. So let me dive into some of these reports that we are talking about. Maybe coming back to the use case Richard was talking about with the hospital before, who have had access or who has been using the access. So basically what we do with data discovery and classification, this is a compound search engine that reads the content of files and classifies them based on the content, and then it combines that with the activities generated by the users. So I will focus on any information that I have deemed important to me as a business. Just going to change the time frame so we've got a little bit more data, and there's my own little demo environment running on my laptop. So what this report provides me is two things. It is activities, but it is activities on specific sensitive files. Files that has been categorized using our compound search engine. And that's, as I said, what it does. It's going to look through the content of the files, and based on the content, then a range of criteria is going to classify them under certain categories. So some of the things in here, you know them, like data protection regulations and payment card industry standards, stuff like that. So if you are working with these things, or if you're having even your own internal standards and internal intellectual properties, you can create your own categories in the system, and you can then use those to make sure that no one, or if somebody does, it's the right people that touches and works with the data that is sensitive to your business or to your customers. So that's just the way it works. It's the engine, categorization, put things in here. As you can see, the activities then related to that. That was the information that the hospital were looking for, basically saying that, well, all our files located in a specific area that are sensitive to the hospital as a business, who have had access to that. So I can see actions in here. This is a simple read action. I can see the objects being read by who then is the user, the account being used to read this. When did it happen? And I can also see where will be file server, SharePoint, anything where we collect details about reading something in there, because we can provide you the same functionality on SharePoint, the ability to understand who have had access, permissions and stuff like that as well. This also provides you with details on where was this coming from. So the request to read comes from a specific device name. So we will take that information, we will resolve it into a device name. So it makes it quite easy for IT admin or for a security consultant to basically see what is going on. And I can take some of these things. I can, it's okay that people read the data basically. So let me leave that out of the report right now. And then that's because I'm not interested in that. I would like to filter more on the changes and maybe somebody trying to get access that they're not allowed to. So in this case, you will be able to see different things, like somebody modified a file. So the modifications, you see that. So what changed? It's actually the ownership of the file changed from the building administrator to the account that took ownership of the files. We can also see if people are adding, or if somebody trying to access and don't get the permissions, don't have the permissions, you will get a failed attempt. And this is also very important in terms of protecting access to your environment and to your files, is that you, by having this read failed attempt, you can see if somebody is maybe trying to breach access, get access, or somebody's trying to poke around in systems where they're not allowed to see, but still want to try to see that. There's many cases out there you can read on online that people are trying to gain access to different things. In the case with the hospital, they would have had the ability, if they have had Netwrix Auditor at that time, to basically understand who has used their permissions, who has read, deleted, added, modified, whatever, on the files in that folder and file share. So very easy, you can see that's a copy action right here. The copy tells you not only what was copied, but where was it copied to. So you get this before and after value in the environments. If somebody copies a folder containing files and they just follows that copy, you will actually see that it's going to be copied because it's going to inherit that. It's going to be copied with its root folder and files. So we provide all those data in the Netwrix environment. But in this case, with the data discovery classification reports, we provide insight into what is being seen as sensitive information from you as customers and your own businesses. We've put in default categories. You saw them inside the payment card industry standards, the data protection regulations, stuff like that is already in there. On you, as I said, you can put them in there yourself. What you also can, and this is maybe even as important as understanding who have had access, where do I actually store my files? We all have different rules and different security measures to make sure that our users are putting files in the right places. The most used measure is that tell them how to do it. Tell them how to do it more or less means, from people perceive this as being, well, it's not a recommendation. They tend to not follow those rules of some reason. We can give you that specific details and insight into, so where do people actually store the data in the environment. So let's go for the PCI category, in this case for the payment card industry. I get complete visibility with Netwrix Auditor into where do people store the data. Do they store them in the correct folders as I've instructed them to do, or do they do something else? So coming back to the MRI scannings, pictures, personal details, it goes for the exact same thing. So that would not be the PCI standard. That would basically be the GDPR standard here in Europe. So all medical data is sensitive details in terms of the GDPR standard. I can then start to look into these things. Click, and where do I find in my environment information about files that contains GDPR related details like social security numbers and names and stuff like that. And as we are using a compound search engine that uses a broad range of different clues and search technologies, we will make it as accurate as possible. So maybe no false positives at all. That's what we want to avoid. The system can help and build that possibility for that. But we provide the report for you straight here. And again, coming back to the subscriptions as I talked about before, if you have in the data protection regulations, there's the terms of data protection officer. They often are not a part of the IT team, but they are a part of the regulation team within the company. You can provide them with the information. So that's one way, the subscription way. Take the report, click subscribe, put in basically what should we call it. Should we add it as a PDF or Excel or comma separated file? What should the output format be? Who should receive it? And then when should we run it? So do we want to provide an overview of where we store GDPR related data, or let's say PCI related data in our environments? Where do we store that? And then create a report that, like, once a day or once a week or once a month, depending on the schedule you like and what is important to your business needs. So you can do that. Makes your life basically very simple to provide those information. So when somebody comes and asks, well, can you provide with these information? Then in the old days, like before auditing, you would have to go through all these PowerShell scripts and then work through the data. Now you can use Netwrix Auditor to just create those reports very fast out of already collected informations, and even automatically provide them to the users. So that's just some of the reporting we have. We have also specific reports for specific modules in the environment. Like, I want to know things about Active Directory. I want to know things about file servers and even permissions and that. One of the general questions we're getting from any help desk member in any of our customers is like, user calls me, can't find his file, what happened, complaining about IT not doing their job correctly, or they're too slow to get them back, and all these things. So everybody's blaming everybody. We will, with the system, provide that exact information because we have that activity. This is just a standard file server activity report, but as you can see, it's more or less the same as it was with the data discovery reports. This is just focusing on all files that is being audited, not just the sensitive file. So you get the same details. So you're also getting things like, in this case, I'm actually auditing a share that I'm using for uploading my reports to, so I can see if somebody accesses my reports and reads them and do things with them. And also, right now, as you can see, I'm auditing that. This system automatically uploads the report that's needed. So you see that in the system, all the things that is happening. You've got the NA admin again, reading and file on FS1, then it's going to happen here from a different workstation than he did it before. So you get all these, as I said, data in here. Those are the activities. The activities are a specific set of reports in Netwrix Auditor. We also have what we call state and time snapshots. I would rather call them configurational snapshots because they tell you the things that are very hard to get out of Windows. The very hard thing to get out of Windows, things like how is my permission set on Windows? How is my effective permissions? Do I have duplicate files? All these things that makes life a little bit less easy from time to time from an IT production perspective. So we can provide you very fast with who has access to folders and files. The report comes up starting on the share level. I'm going to tell you that all these accounts who have access, we can tell you what permissions they have, and we can also tell you how have they been granted this permission? Where do they get this permission from? They got it, in this case, from different group memberships. And if you have the Active Directory auditing module as well, you will have the ability to see the group structure. In this case, this is a demo user group, and that's just a security group basically in my environment that allows this account access to the files as we just looked at before. So we go from, again, from like high level information, so we can dive deeper into the details. I can expand this if we like, so like what I have, basically everything, so everything even inherits the permissions, and it will create like a report with hundreds of pages in that, so we're not going to do that. So all these reports are, as I said, reports that can be used to provide the details right here, right now at hand. You could also use them to share them with the subscription to other people in your organization very easily. What it also carries is snapshots. I talked about this date and time snapshot. So this is a day-by-day configurational snapshot. We do that, we collect the details throughout the day, and then we create a snapshot during nighttime with the information. You can start to compare older snapshots, so back in time, and you can see if there hasn't been made any changes, because very often, as Regis was talking about, is that when changes happen, when you are being briefed, it takes quite a while to realize that it has happened, basically. And you can use these information to start to understand and investigate into what was changed. So in this case, you can see there's a difference between, we actually have an administrator that have direct access to the accounting share. And if there's even other users in here, then if we look at the current settings, so the current basically set up in the environment, it will show you that it's only having this account that has the direct access. Nobody, if not nobody, everybody else gets it through group membership. So that comes back also to the secure by design or secure by default, but specifically the secure by design principle that comes with data protection regulations, making sure that you design your permission sets in your structure, would be SharePoint, would be file servers and other services as well, that they follow these principles, not just allow everyone access to anything, because that is not secure by design. And that is something we all need to be today, according to the new data protection regulations. So we have the reports, we have the scheduling or the subscription to the report. What we also have is ability to create alerts based on activities. So anybody creating any type of activity on the system being monitored, and as Richard told, there's a broad range of systems from on-premise to cloud-based solutions like the Office 365, the Azure AD, file service group points, all these things, all the changes happening, made by users or administrators or external consultants, whoever is doing that, we can start to alert on that. So to go and jump back to the alert module, we have that possibility. So you can create your own. We have a lot of them built in basically to Netwrix Auditor already. So things like logons to specific machine. That's often used to control somebody logs on to domain controllers. So, people from a security perspective want to know if somebody accesses and logs into a domain controller. They want to be alerted on that. Maybe something like excessive rapid logons. What is that? Well, could be a brute force attack using a specific account, or maybe even more than one account. But you will see that an alert like this uses a threshold that says, well, if you log in more than 3 times within 5 minutes, it's going to be creating an alert and saying this is something happens, and then IT or whoever sits with that responsibility can react to it if they feel that this is needed. So instead of waiting 200 days, understanding we have been under attack for a while, you can use these alerts based on basic security measures to control and get information when something happens. Just got an email from a prospector just before the meeting here that he's been running Netwrix Auditor for a couple of days, and he found out he actually has an account that's trying to log in more than 57,000 times within the last couple of days, which is either somebody trying to break a system or somebody forgot to reset the password on their mobile device. But that's some of the things we will collect, and we will provide you with those information that we can, as I said, alert on these things and provide you very fast details into what is going on. So in the case with the hospital before that somebody adds everyone as a permission, you could create your own alerts based on that. I've done that here basically. So creating alerts, who should receive it, what are we looking for? So this is what I'm looking for. What it basically does is going to look for everyone being added in the data of the security log events that is happening. So if that happens, I will get alerted on it. So get an email on it. I don't run this with the threshold because I want to know it right away, exactly when somebody does it. I add a risk score to it as well. A risk score is a way for you to determine the severity for your company if something like this would happen. Is it very, is it a high risk as for you as a company, an IT division, or anybody else to do this? If it is, you simply just choose your risk score down here from basically anything to very high risk. This risk score is included in the behavior anomaly assessment, which comes with Netwrix Auditor as well. The behavior anomaly assessment is a special report that shows you all the users that has triggered and basically gone above the settings in this alert pane. So anything that they trigger you want to know about is going to end up in the behavior anomaly report as well. And that sits right here in the front. So behavior anomalies, and you will see any of your accounts in your environment that triggers these alerts. You will start to dive into what are they doing. So I can click on this. I can see there's this Rocket account. He or she has been copying off or reading. Well, reading is another alert I've created. What it does, it's going to detect if somebody reads more than 10 files in 5 minutes. Because one we often get is what if somebody resigns from his or her job and role and leave the company? Are they getting, copying data and get them with them when they leave the company? And we want to know that. So you can set up like an alert like this, and you can then monitor this. And then if somebody starts to do this, you'll get an alert, and you can then take that information, go to your HR department and say, that user that has resigned is doing this. Is this okay or not? Or even, depending on the size of your company, you can go to the person doing and say, what are you doing? That's a matter of your own business processes. Probably provide you the details to do that. So what we're also doing here is to basically say, well, the details on what is happening, and we can then choose to go further into what is this user doing then, because It could be a user that is leaving the company. So I can see specific details on what the user is, in this case, reading, and we're being alerted because there's multiple reads in here. So we can see that reads, there's modifications. What I'm looking into right now is the correlated information on all activities done by this account on all my audited systems, not just file servers, not just Active Directory, not just SharePoint, SQL, and so on. No, it's all the details. So you have this one pane of information into everything the users are doing. Right now filtered on this account. So I can start to see what else did the user do. Well, he's actually adding something. Has a log on. Well, that's okay to have a log on. I can click, and then if I click one of these lines, I get some more details over here to the right that show more about the actual event itself. So this is what I'm talking about, that we remove all the noise. So adding a file to a share, it's a couple of events in Windows in the security logs, and we then provide you these actionable information so you can see what is going on. Read them like they're in human format, basically. So it's from a file server. This is the item, a file share that has been added, a document to that. When did it happen? From which machine was it being done? Again, it's from desktop 1. And then you can see down here some more details, because what we often see is that in large environments, an account name is not that easy to figure out who that real person is. You need to go into Active Directory users and computers and figure out what's the name of that user, and then start to contact them. We provide you that detail right in here. So the display name you've put into your Active Directory will be right here. Same does for the membership of different groups in Active Directory, just for the purpose of you understanding the level of access that that account also have. So would this be an investigation into certain activities made by an account? You can then see what the account has of rights and permissions in your system. So we simply, this list is going back 180 days, because that's the default retention time in SQL in our settings. So we can go back and see, well, some piece, so copying right here, adding, reading. I might just want to know specific things. So if I want to know what the user actually modified, I can go down here to your lower right, and I can say I want to include the action modified in my search criteria. And then I'm going to delete everything else and just provide what does this account modify. That could be somebody raising permissions for specific accounts, deleting, adding accounts in Active Directory. In this case, it's modification of a couple of files. And I can again see the details over here. So changing ownership, you saw that in the report before. Here it is adding to the system, basically. So you get these different details on what is happening in the environment. So it makes it easier for you guys to basically work with the system. The way you deploy this, because very often say, well, how can we get this up running? There's 4 ways. You can install it on a normal Windows server. Requires a SQL database. For small installations, we can run a SQL Express, but depending on the size and the nature of your company, what you want to audit, there might be a need for a standard SQL license instead. But that's the way of how much data you will produce from an audit perspective. We can tune the different retention times. You can tune them lower down and make them, a shorter retention time, and then leave more space back in the database. Basically, by doing that, we have a virtual appliance that goes for either Hyper-V or VMware, the vSphere platform. You can download, you can deploy it. It's a standard virtual machine there. Runs Windows, runs Netwrix installer, pre-installed with SQL Express pre-installed on there. So it runs, and it will actually run with the license that is valid for 20 days. So every function and feature is valid for 20 days. You also have the possibility to spin it up on Azure as a virtual machine there, or on Amazon Web Service as well as a virtual machine there. So you can choose how you want to deploy it. You get the same features, you get the same functions. It all runs as some kind of Windows server, either on-premise or in the cloud. And we then provide you the ability to audit both on-premise systems and systems in the cloud as well. So that's it for the demonstration. And Richard, it's back to you now.
Seriously, can I have my presentation back?
I will give it. I will give that to you in just.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. 2 minutes past there. I just started up the wrong end. So there we go.
Okay. Next one. Absolutely. Kenneth, thank you very much for this brief overview. It's quite clear in the demo that there's a lot of possibilities. It's too much to show in the time frame we have available right now. So please feel free to reach out to either a business partner, to ourselves directly, for more in-depth or specific questions related to your environment. Just to wrap up the presentation and demonstration part, Netwrix Auditor, why? I would say really, if I talk to our customers, some of the key things is the fully integration with the database, the ease of deployment without having the need for any drivers, specifically if you have stuff hosted externally or in the cloud, being able to audit without having any drivers to install is key. And third thing, it's really an affordable solution where we have a license model that is really based on the size of the companies, the number of enabled user accounts, so it can really really work with that in a really flexible way. In a lot of cases, our customers don't even use any professional services for the installation and configuration. So it's a really easy to use system. As next steps, we'll come to that. Well, basically, I want to make some time for the questions that were posted on the system. And in that, I'll take the first question for sure, if that's okay with you, Kenneth.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, data classification, is it automated or is it a manual process? Well, definitely what we provide is an automated process. It is a separate system, separate server system that you install, and that system will actually scan all the data that you instruct it to scan. It will classify the information, discover any files according to the taxonomies that you use. That might be GDPR, it might be PCI, it might be something you build yourself, which can be done quite easily on your intellectual property, for example. And this system will build what we call a metadata database, where all the interaction is working on. So again, the way to do the data discovery, data classification is it's fully automated. It will keep track of all the changes, and it's non-intrusive. So again, there's no need to add any drivers or software to the systems that you want to do the data classification on. Okay. Please let us know if that sufficiently answer your question. And you want me to pick the second one as well? Kenneth, you've been talking for a long time. So the second question is, can I monitor or audit an outbound and inbound email? Well, on email auditing, what we audit in terms of activities is giving you input and visibility in who is doing what. And we can audit non-owner mailbox activities on Exchange and Office 365. So what you can do is you can see in the reports who read, deleted, sent, forwarded emails in mailbox that are not their own mailbox. So this is extremely useful in organizations that use shared mailboxes for specific services. We see a lot of demand in travel industry and service organizations, but also in situations where people have delegated mailbox access, like management of a company, to people working for them or admin people. So you have that visibility. If you're looking to monitor inbound and outbound email on the email server level, we are not an email gateway. So we just provide the audit level information on, so you can see the subject line of the email and see whether somebody deleted it, forwarded it, or replied to a certain message. Okay. Are there any further questions? Let me see what's the pricing options, how much the solution cost, and what licensing models are available. In terms of pricing options, we have a license model that is based on the number of enabled user accounts. So because we come from an audit background, we count the enabled users, the enabled service accounts, and the functional accounts as well, because if a functional account gets admin privileges, you want to know as well. So that's the basis of our license model. And we have a minimum of 150 licenses that you can buy, which is basically our SMB, our small business model, which for Active Directory auditing is even less than €1,000 a year. So that's really affordable to get started and get your visibility there. Besides annual pricing, we also have a perpetual licensing available where you can buy the license and then pay for support only afterwards. As for the specific pricing for the specific modules, the Active Directory module is the most expensive one, but I would really suggest you contact your local business partner or get in touch with us directly to look at your specific environment. We have some special pricing for governance and hospitals and non-profit. So they would really go on a case-by-case basis. And I think with that, we went through the questions.
No, there's more now.
There's one more?
There's a few more, actually.
Okay. I missed that, Kenneth.
I can read it for you. As an IT audit firm,
oh yeah,
how best can I use the solution for various customers? And the second one, you can take that at the same time. As a service provider, how can I use the solution?
Okay. For service providers, we have an MSP business model as well. And the MSP business model is best discussed directly with the MSP because it's different packaging, different counting of licenses. So, please pick up contact directly with your Netwrix sales representative, which can be myself or one of my colleagues, of course, to discuss the MSP model. That basically the idea is that you have one big license that you can then use to support different customers on the single license. And that will allow you to support many small customers without having to buy a single license with a minimum of 150. Okay, so that's a really useful business model. As an IT audit firm, how can I best use the solution for various customers? Our solution basically is available for free. You can download it on our website, and it comes with a 20-day license for evaluation. So it might be enough to use that for a customer, the 20-day free evaluation license. But as an IT audit firm, you might also want to use a real audit license. We realize that, and we're currently working with the product management to be able to provide specific licenses that IT audit firms can use. Okay, so again, it's best to get in contact directly with Netwrix, and we keep you informed on where they stand. And also, we want to talk with you and see how you see the usage of such license in terms of durations, in terms of number of licenses required, in terms of support services around such an IT audit license. Okay, so looking forward to talk to you directly on that as well. Kenneth, have you seen any other questions come up?
Yep, we still have a few there. Next one, that's one for me. Hi, I would like to read some guide on how to install technical stuff. Where can that be reached? You can reach it on netwrix.com under support. You will get access to all the documentations there. So install guides, configuration guides, stuff like that, all is there. You will get it as well if you download the trial. It's only a zip file containing the installs and the manuals also. The next one, how does Netwrix enforce controls over USB devices? Netwrix Auditor is a visibility platform. We are not an enforcement platform. We don't have in the alert module, as I showed you earlier on, the possibility to execute a script that triggers something in an incident response system. So you can have Netwrix Auditor react to certain things happening and then tell another system to do whatever remediations you want to happen then therefrom. So, but Netwrix Auditor is not a enforcement application. It's a system to provide you visibility of audit data and activities from your users.
That is correct. But Kenneth, we do have good visibility. Even I think in Windows 10, you can even see the serial number of the USB stick inserted in the endpoint, and and what happened to it, right?
Yeah. We see different details actually on it. It's very often is people want to access a server with a USB stick. That's something you want to prevent, and we can tell you who has inserted a USB stick in a server in your environment. It comes actually with the Windows Server auditing module, that possibility. So that's what you need to have that. The next one, I saw the SQL audit option here. What can I do with this software connecting SQL, concerning SQL auditing? That's for you, Richard.
That's for me. Very good. Very good. SQL auditing provides you with details on SQL configuration, but also who is changing values in the different SQL tables, failed logons, etc. So the SQL auditing module is a module designed around control of data and security in and around your SQL systems. It is not comparable with some of the SQL management platforms that would go into monitoring CPU and utilization and resources and stuff like that. So that's what we do with the SQL auditing system. Reason why it's used a lot is organizations have application servers, and the backend is a SQL server system. And not only does an organization need to provide information of who has access to the application, and the application can have some audit info internally as well, but you must also be able to show auditors that only the service account of the applications and the DB admins have access to the SQL Server system at the backend, and that there is no other users that have direct access to the SQL Server. So there's quite a bit of demand, specifically with the GDPR and with privacy-related information on SQL databases, to find out who actually has access and who is using what access. Then another one, Kenneth, on does it require a connection to the internet?
No.
The answer basically is no, it doesn't.
No, it's self-contained, an on-prem self-contained system. Well, of course, if you would monitor cloud-based solutions like Azure AD or Office 365, then that would require an internet connection. But from a system-wide perspective, no, we do not need any internet connection.
We have several customers in high secure environments where the Netwrix Auditor system runs internally without any connection to the outside internet. So that is perfectly possible. and yeah, it's used quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one more coming in. Can you monitor a free storage place? So I would assume the meaning is the
like Dropbox and stuff.
The available space.
Okay. I'm not sure what the question is. This could also be, can you monitor like free storage space like Dropbox or something, or disk.com?
If it is for the remainder of storage capacity, no, that's not something we audit. If we're talking about like OneDrive for business as a cloud storage platform, yes, we can audit that as well. It's a part of the Office 365 license to do that. It takes care of SharePoint Online.
Yeah, but on the some other free storage stuff on the internet, we can't do much unless they have like an API where we can import some of the log information, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, the person who asked the question, Ladislav, please, feel free to drop us a message with more specific details on the question you have, and we'll be happy to help you out. We have come to the full hour, so I really want to wrap this up. For the next steps, you've seen the slides. There's free trials. There's our virtual appliance, in-browser demo. You can contact us directly or one of our business partners. I want to thank you all for your time and attention here in this product webinar, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Bye now.